For this lesson, I'd like to look at expressions with multiple parentheses and how do we simplify them. So for example 1, we have 5 times the quantity 2 minus 3 times x minus 2y. To simplify this thing, to actually multiply the whole thing out, we would have to work from the innermost parentheses out. So I'll start this one by copying down the 5, writing down this parenthesis, and then inside I'm going to distribute the 3 to both the x and the minus 2y. This will give me minus 3x but a positive 6y. So this is what we mean by working with the innermost parentheses first. Like I ignored pretty much the 5. This, well, technically a bracket, it's acting as a parenthesis. I just wanted to work with the 2 minus 3 times x minus 2y. Multiply that out. There are no like terms to combine, but now that this is done, I can distribute the 5 to the 3 terms inside the outermost parentheses. So we get, for our final answer, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15x, and then we get a plus 5 times 6y is 30y. The last thing really to do is look at our final answer and ask, are there any like terms, or can we simplify this any further? There are no like terms, we can't combine anything else, and so this is the final answer. The point being, work with the innermost parentheses first until you get to the outermost. So for example 2, same idea. I want to multiply this expression out. It's just getting a little bit more complicated. So the innermost parentheses means, okay, I have this 2x, this 3 times x plus 1, and then 4 times 2 minus x. So I'm ignoring this minus 3 and the parenthesis that starts here and ends here. I'm just going to copy that down. And within these parentheses, I'm going to distribute this 3, this 4, and then combine any like terms that are left over. Okay, so we get this minus 3. Now within these parentheses, I have 2x. Distributing the 3, I get plus 3x plus 3. And then plus, if I distribute the 4, I get 8x minus 4. I think at this point, I want to simplify this portion of the problem before I multiply in this negative 3. I see there's like terms. I have a 2x, a 3x, and an 8x. So I'm just going to underline those. These are all like terms. And then the 3 and the negative 4, I can combine those as well. So I get negative 3, open my parenthesis, 2x, 3x is 5x, and 8 more is going to be 13x. And then the 3 minus 4 is going to give me negative 1. So now that the inside is completely solved, it's okay to distribute this negative 3 to both terms. Since it's negative, I know we're going to switch signs, so it should be a negative to a positive. I'm going to write this one out carefully. This is negative 3 times 13x. And then it's going to be positive 3 times 1. That positive because we have this negative multiplied to this negative. My final answer is negative 39x plus 3, and that's it. And for our final example, this one's just same idea, but just even more complicated than the previous ones. There's several different, looking parentheses here. Like, we have these type of parentheses. These are often just referred to as brackets. And then there's a curly bracket on the outermost one. So we have like a bracket here and here, meaning that those are connected to each other. This bracket and this bracket are indicating where it like starts and stops. Those are connected. And so then we have this parenthesis compared with this parenthesis, kind of tell me where I'm starting and stopping. So if you're trying to find the innermost parentheses, since this is the first one I get to, this is the outermost. So that and that are the outermost. Okay, we've now entered this, and then it takes us to our next parenthesis, which is this bracket. So this is like the second one in compared to this one over here. And when we move this way, okay, I'll underline this. This portion is the innermost part of the expression with respect to the parentheses. So what I'm going to do is, I'm ignoring quite a bit at first. I'm ignoring this 0.5, this 8x, and this -4. I'll copy it down, but I would just like to start working on simplifying this part of the problem. So, okay, I have a negative that gets distributed in here. Because there's a 1 in front of this parenthesis, we don't even really need the brackets. I'm going to start jotting all of this down. I'm going to copy down the 0.5, and then the 8x and the -4, and then this other parenthesis. And I'm going to start simplifying this innermost portion, which is x plus, I can just write x plus 3 because there's a 1 in front of that parenthesis. But for this next part, I'm distributing a negative, so I get -1 plus x. I then close the other two parentheses and move forward. I think I'm going to simplify this first before moving on to distributing a -4. So I'll copy down the 0.5, the 8x, and the -4, and we have a total of 1, 2, 3 x's, so I'm going to write 3x, and then we have 3 minus 1, so I can just put plus 2, and then close the remaining parentheses. So now our second innermost portion to deal with is multiplying the -4 into this expression. So let's do that. -4 gets multiplied to both terms. Copy down the 0.5, the 8x, but when I distribute the -4, I get -12x minus 8. Okay, I think we need to look through here and try to combine like terms, but there's just the 8x minus 12x. So we get 0.5. We have -4x minus 8. And we're at our last step, and that is to just take this 0.5 and multiply it into the final parentheses. That gives us a -0.5 times 4 is 2x, and then another negative, and then 0.5 times 8 is 4, and this is our final answer.